For the people that are new in class, my name is Bayode Agi, and we have gone through, if you are this is your first time in class, you didn't miss much, you only missed first part of public sector. And the first part of public sector, we introduce ourselves to the issues of public sector, and we discuss the financial authorities of public sector. What we discussed about the objective of Nigeria. What was the objective of Nigeria? One of the objectives, can somebody give me one objective that Constitution gave for bringing us together? One objective. Now we're going to harness our resources. You guys remember? For the use of all, and we said we are going to now set policies to achieve all these objectives. Am I on the right? So, and based on that, we also discussed the guys that are supposed to be the officers in public sector. And we discussed the issues around ethics. And we said that ethics is not law, ethics is moral. That you can argue law, and thank God we had a good argument that day here, that based on law, you can get away with, okay, that's my brother that said he will give the contract to his wife no matter what. That based on law, you can get away with some things. However, morals will not allow us. But secondly, the Code of Conduct says that in public service, we should always act in such a way that promotes the integrity of public service. And there are things we will do that will not make people still believe in the processes that we use to achieve them. And we also now discussed about corruption. We did a case study in class about corruption, and I offered that people should attempt it and send to me. I didn't get anybody that attempted it. It was good for me because I didn't have to break my week to start reading somebody's. One of the reasons we do these things is that, yes, we did. I intentionally did not do the full solution, so that when you get home and you sit down and try to bring back everything we did in class into a written format, it will have helped you a great deal formulating a strategy to attempt questions. I said, and I will repeat to you guys, 85% of failure of ICANN is not lack of knowledge, it's approach to question. Look at the requirement of the question. At your foundation level, we will always give you questions that are instructive. So to say, what is this? What is that? In your required, you'll be told, prepare a report. Are you getting it? In foundation. But once you get to the skills level, the questions will be implied. The solution will be implied in most cases, because we expect that at this level, you have been practicing, you know what you're doing. Am I making sense to you guys? So we may not really say, what is this? Or this is the approach you should use to answer the question. So you may attempt the question without following the required approach, and you will fail. Please, ladies and gentlemen, part of those things is understanding those verbs that the examiner is saying. When they say analyze, when they say review, when they say all those things, they actually mean different things. It's not just one. Some people have crammed the notes, So when they say, what's clinical corruption, you just start everything that they know about it. So that part was the first part of public sector. And I said we have strategically divided it into parts. We are moving to the second part, which is the public finance of public sector. Now, ladies and gentlemen, technically, we have covered 20% of syllabus in that 1 month, because we had in 4 weeks that we were together, we covered 20% of the syllabus. I covered the entire framework and concept of public sector with you. And ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you, minimum 2 questions, at least one question. The one question has always come every day in an implied fashion. What is the role of public sector? Sometimes they say it as part of a case study that they expect you to talk about it, or they directly even ask you. So, as a way of recapping, what is the role of public sector in a mixed economy? Can people help me? What is the role of public sector? What is the role of public sector? Don't let me even have the mixed economy in it. You guys think I'm fail? You think I'm going to pay? It's not possible. It's not possible. You cannot pay. You think I will be coming here to talk every day, and you guys will just blank out and ask a question? Kojo? Lie. Okay, don't look at your notes. Yes, okay, talk to me. Don't go back. Role of public sector. No, sir. These things I listed them, there were 4. Okay, now since I now said I listed them, now allocation of resources, distribution, regulation, stabilization. That 4 issues, as it relates to public sector, as the role of public sector, it can be called anything. Some people, even in some questions, they can call it functions of public sector. Some will say, why do we need public sector? Some they will say, what is the role of public sector? Whichever way they are asking for those four major issues. The entire study you are doing in public sector is because you are trying to achieve that. And we said that we are even doing that because we're in a mixed economy. And once we identify three kinds of economy, I mean, there are actually four types of economy, but the ones that we normally study are three types. We said that, yeah, what are the three types of the economy? Mixed economy, which we said is a mixture of, and we said the other name for capitalist is market economy, and the socialist is planned economy. And we said nowhere in the world that people claim that some economies still have the extreme of this, because those two are extremes, Abi, where government plan and where market determines. But in reality, what we have is a mix where there's a level of government intervention in every economy, but there is a lot of market forces also involved. So ladies and gentlemen, please, those four things, understand them. You will always see them. So that is like 10 marks free. Any other question can come in that part A, but one question that I've not missed any die yet. But like I said, it's not that it may not come. In fact, for you to make your cases in explaining most of the topics, most of the issues you want to lay emphasis on, those four usually help as a bedrock for you to now put your case, to lay your cases on them. So technically, ladies and gentlemen, we are done with 20% of the syllabus. Let's move to the another 20%, another 30%, which is the financing. How do we finance? So what will we be discussing? It's going to be a class that will span from today to next week. So what will we be discussing? We'll be introducing what public finance is all about. We'll understand what public finance is. We'll try to understand what's the objective of public finance. And we'll talk about the key terms, the things that I'll be mentioning randomly, which I should believe you should know. However, I won't take it for granted that you should know. We are going to talk about them before we go on, because I'll be mentioning them as part of discussion, as part of words I'll be using. And if you don't understand them in the context I'm using them, it may make the class look as if I'm just, you understand, just talking. So we're talking of those things, and we're looking at the scope of public finance and the issue of public revenue and public expenditure. So let us talk of public finance. You know, like I said to you guys, my view is that before you account, because the class we are sitting in is for public sector account and finance, Abi. Before you can account, Abi, you must first get the money. That is how it works. And that is even how government works. Government needs to find a way of how they're going to get money. Has anybody have you guys downloaded the slides? 2, week 3, week 4, we're in week, what we're having now is week 4 and 5. You may not make it to class sometimes, yeah? So that's it. So you can actually go there now and download the slides, and so let's go. Now, in the first part of public sector, we establish the objective for public sector. Do we agree? Part of those objectives, we now say we're going to set policies to achieve some objectives, Abi. And we said, for example, one of the policies the Constitution has given is that by the year 2020, Abi, one of these we have set for ourselves as a policy. By the year 2020, everybody will have a house, Abi, education, healthcare, what else? Light, power, that's the same, yeah, what else? I think those are cardinal things, Abi. The maternal mortality, Abi, will be reduced to 0 and all that. Now, we have set all that. The question is, how do we get money to do it? Now, usually one of the things that is causing problems with us in Nigeria is that we have turned the public finance concept upside down. The concept of public finance is that the people will first pay, do you understand? And whatever the shortcoming, they'll use the natural resources they have to balance it up. That is, when we are setting, how many of you belong to a town union here? So, when in your churches and mosques, if we want to build church, what do we do first? We call the builder, Abi, and we get an estimate. That's the first thing we do, Abi. Haven't gotten an estimate. The pastor will say, I'm not talking of the new churches, I'm talking of the old other churches. The chairman of the building committee, Abi, will come to church and say that we have gotten the estimate to maybe expand the children's church. The estimate is 5 million naira. Based on this estimate, we know that we have 1,000 male families. They don't break it as this thing. 1,000 families in the church. They will now say, therefore, every family should bring 50,000 naira. Is that how it's done, Abi? Sometimes they will say, okay, first, the families that are willing to donate, come on. The next Sunday, they will now tell us that they've raised 3 million naira. The balance is now to be shared amongst this thing. So when the money is now shared, we have not gotten the money, we will now commence building. Are you getting it? The same way finance in public sector should work. The first thing we need to first decide, what do we want to spend money on, before we now decide where do we get money from. So in this class, essentially what public finance is all about think I've already introduced it to you guys. What public finance is all about is how do we raise money, how do we spend this money, and how does these two, raising money and spending money, affect the economy. If you remember in the first part of public sector, we discussed a whole class about economy, and we said one of the fundamental issues what we're trying to achieve is to make sure the economy grows, and we discovered about the state of the economy today. So public finance essentially is how do we raise money, how do we also spend those money in a way, and also how it affects the activities. How these activities affect the economy. Sometimes spending money can actually shrink an economy, sometimes, whereas sometimes spending money can boost an economy. So what are we trying to achieve in public? These three are the major objectives. Now there are follow-up objectives that people mention about. If you read different books, there are other objectives that are what we call secondary objectives, but these are the three primary objectives of public finance. One is to ensure that resources are efficiently allocated. You know, we said that in the first part, we said part of the reason for our public sector is that we allocate to just resources, but we're not concerned about the efficient allocation of it. We just said to allocate it, the money. Second one is that also concerning efficiency in allocation of distribution of the resources. And thirdly is to ensure that there is macroeconomic stabilization. Now, if we have to explain efficient allocation of resources, the first thing we need to talk about is what is even allocation of resources? Can somebody help us with allocation of resources? Like the way we explained in the first part. So can somebody explain allocation of resources? What we decide to do with resources we have? Yeah, but put it more professional. Yes, that is by implication. The word allocation. You just told me there are some words you are going to use. There's a way you're going to lay out your answer that the examiner will know. Even the person will not finish reading. The person will just, this one sabi, no be. Except you are in contention for a prize winner before they now remark your paper. They will have marked you to win. Then maybe 2 marks. Let's mark it properly. We said that number one, we agreed that in public sector, one of the things that will bring all our resources together, and that if we allow that, we also now said that in a market economy where things are allocated to are determined by the market forces, what are those things we are trying to allocate? What are the things we are trying to allocate? The resources. What are the resources in the economy we are trying to allocate? Yes, not public goods. It is the factors of production, because we said that the factors of production are what we use to achieve the objective of growth in the economy. And why are they very important? Because they affect what we produce, how we produce, and from whom we produce them. Excellent. But we said if we allow only the market forces to determine what to produce, for whom, and how to produce it, only the things that people will want, that will be produced. However, there are things we all agree we need, but nobody will be willing to take out time to produce because nobody is going to pay for it. Are you getting it? And that is what she has mentioned of public goods. Part of the function of public sector is to allocate part of our resources to public goods. And what are those public goods? Those things that are non-rivalrous, non-exclusive. That is, if I'm using them, I cannot stop you from using it. No matter if you are not paid tax in this year, in this Nigeria since you were born, I cannot tell you to stop using the road. At least the common roads, I can stop you from using. In fact, not that I'm going to stop you. You stop yourself from using Lekki Ikoyi Link Road, That one you stop yourself. The money will stop you, But the common one, not the other, the streets, the layout, you can use them, Those are public goods that we allocate money from our resources. Now, but in public finances, so that we also make sure what we are allocating is efficient to it. We don't just allocate any money, we allocate the money that will not harm the other part of the economy. Now, let's talk of distribution. What did we mention about distribution? Can somebody explain distribution of resources? Yeah? Distribution of resources. Distribution of income. It's still almost the same thing, yes? It's still almost the same. Distribution, yes. We discussed about distribution in the first one, as part of the function. So, as part of the function of public sector, what is distribution function of public sector? Far from it, sir. See, let's also come back again to the issue of market forces and government. Now, in the market force being determined by forces of demand and supply, it means that the rich will always become, do you agree? Because if you are poor, you can't even have money, you can't have capital in the first instance. Am I right? For you to manipulate labor, so if you have even an entrepreneurship dream and you don't have capital, you can't manipulate labor. And what's the other fourth one? What are the four things now? Excellent. So if you are an entrepreneur and you don't have capital, You can't manipulate labor and land. You can't acquire land and you can't get labor on it. Are you getting it? Therefore, you will continue to work for somebody. If, for example, I gave an example that day that assuming there was no supposed free education, assuming we have to pay for education the way we are paying for it now, I'm sure some of us will not be in this class because our fathers will not have gone to school. Am I right? So how do we now distribute resources? Government function in such a way that it will take from the rich and use it to finance the poor so that the poor can have a leeway out of poverty. How do we achieve this? Basically, through taxation. Are you getting it? Basically, through taxation. We will say we are going to tax the rich. Have you guys read the new tax policies? The luxury taxes will stay and increase. Have you? I don't agree with that VAT. No. I don't agree with that one. But the luxury taxes, now, luxury taxes means that if you don't buy luxury things, you will not, do you understand? That means I want to make money from luxury. I agree. If Nigeria is the highest champagne drinking nation in Africa, they should tax it now. Those who are drinking champagne should pay. Proper champagne, no, that's people that, some people know here, so let's talk about it. So, we will take from those taxes to give, for example, healthcare. Do you understand? We can, from taxing the private hospital, we can actually provide for the public hospital. Do you understand? It's just like VAT. VAT is saying that if you are consuming some things that are non-essential, you should be able to pay. For example, if you are consuming DSTV, pay, so that we can give people that don't have DSTV. How many people are consuming DSTV in Nigeria? How many people? There are not people using DSTV in Nigeria. They are not up to 10%. I tell you authoritatively. So, if you have DSTV in your house, you are a very, very fortunate person. Secondly, if you are on premium bouquet, you are less than 5% in Nigeria. That means there are two issues, because when we did the study, we agreed on two issues. You know, some people, they use their last money to make sure DSTV is in their house. Let's consider the Lekki toll gate and the Lekki link, Ikoyi link way. The idea of that Ikoyi link way is so that there will be traffic on it, 250. But there is traffic. People are even carry 2K on it to pay 250. They don't care. Everything is status in Nigeria. Everything is status in Nigeria. Somebody starts work with you today, he wants to buy Range Rover. Tell him to buy, what's it called, this small car? Picanto. The guy said, no, me, Picanto, I'll rather take Kabu Kabu. Which is what they make Picanto for. When you are just starting life, Picanto, everything is cheap. It's economic stabilization. I explained something concerning how economy moves, that is like human life, Sometimes you are up, sometimes, yes sir. Now, the first thing you have agreed you want to distribute, Now, efficiency. Can you just, there's effectiveness, efficiency. Can you explain the difference to us, sir? Sorry? Can somebody explain what is efficiency? Doing the timeliness. You understand? You can understand now. So, how do we redistribute such that the people get it when they need it? Those are the things we'll be talking about in this class. Then the microeconomic stabilization. We said when we're talking, I'm only, because of people of news, I'm only going back to the other class to explain some of these concepts. Economic stabilization, that economy, it goes down, up, everything. And when you are low, when you are high in the economy, there's economic boom, you should save money so that when there's economic downturn, or whatever you call it, you also bring from what you have saved to help the economy. But there is something that is sufficient. It is called microeconomic. We're going to look at those fundamental issues, and we're going to talk of the difference between macro and microeconomic. So let's talk of these fundamental key terms. These terms, I'll be using them loosely in this class from here onward, so that we are on the same page, so that when I mention them, I will know that you know them. Let us go over them. Number one, the type of government policy. Basically, there are two major government policies that helps to drive public finance: the monetary and the fiscal. And the fiscal one is one that is the most important to us in public finance. We are not really studying monetary, though indirectly we are studying. If you are in a pure economic class, we'll be studying monetary in the more. But what we're studying mostly in this class, it is the fiscal one, which essentially is about how do we do taxation to collect money and how do we spend. While the other monetary one is about interest rates, money supply, that will kind of determine the circulation of money in an economy. So let me break it down further. First, the definition of the two. If you look at the definition of fiscal policy, it is all about the expenditure and revenue, which is essentially what public finance is all about. But it is expenditure and revenue at every level of the economy. In the first class, we explained that what type of government do we run in Nigeria? Federalism. In a federalism kind of government, there is a shared responsibility amongst tiers of government. So, as a citizen of Nigeria, there are some things you expect federal government to do for you. For example, federal government should be in charge of your defense, In case of war coming from outside the country, federal government should fight your battle, abi? There are things you expect the state to do to you, and there are some things you expect from the local government. For example, refuse disposal is purely a local government affairs. Marriage, local government, abi? Debt, local government. Markets, market shops, what do you call them? Kiosk, local government. Are you getting the listen? So, there are some things, and like an example I used when we were in the first class, that the way Nigeria was structured in 1960 was wonderful. If we have stayed the way it was, but we are kind of manipulated it to the point, you know, there's a way you are going to confuse people, then you become confused. That's what happened. We were confusing the thing. Then now, we don't even know where we are. We are confused. Now, but monetary policy is the one that CBN usually sets in place. What they use it to do is to comply to affect, control the supply of money in an economy. Like I said, the monetary policy are policies that we will not go full deep. In fact, we'll just be talking on them peripheral in this class. Hello. And what is the principle behind it? The principle behind fiscal policy is that there's a way we are going to manipulate spending and taxes that will have effect in achieving the economic objective of price stability, full employment, and economic growth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes in some books usually term these three as the objective of public finance. Are you getting it? You know, in the objective we set now, we said is efficient allocation, efficient distribution, macroeconomic stabilization. But you're going to read some books, especially people that are, I know there are some Fiscals, that read beyond ICANN. There are some books you are going to read that this will be the three objectives that they will state there as the objective of fiscal policy. Now, you can see that there is a difference between, and I want you to kindly note it, because if the question comes and the question is asking you for the objective of public finance, is different from the objective of fiscal policy. Public finance is an ongoing thing. Fiscal policy is usually in a year. It's reviewed constantly. Do you understand? So, in fiscal policy, we want to ensure that, particularly in this period, how we tax and how we spend ensures that three things are achieved. Price is stable, people are employed, and there's growth in the economy. I think that's what we need to quickly look at in Nigeria right now. Whereas, in the monetary policy is used to tweak, for example, issues of exchange rates, inflation. Do you understand? And how, for example, how Nigeria is exchanging to dollar, for example. I saw this thing on my Facebook and Instagram that they placed $1 and 500 naira, and they say we made it, Abi. We made it finally. The greatest something in America is also the same level as our founding father in Azazikwe, 500 naira to $1. We made it. Oh boy. That was a bad news, though. 500 naira. Not a small thing, though. Some of us that deal a bit small in dollar, we know it's not a small thing. It's killing. Now, who makes the policy when it comes to fiscal policy? The government at every level. That means, which local government are we in now? Is this Surulere? Excellent. That means Surulere local government can determine on its own how it wants to spend and how it wants to raise money. Do you understand? It may be different from the strategy and policy of Lagos State. Are you getting it? And the strategy and policy of Lagos may also be different from the strategy and policy of federal government, because they have different heads that they can raise money from. Now, let me give you an example. Ikoyi in 1990 is not the same with Ikoyi in 2016. Am I right? Because in 1980s, 90s, there were families in Ikoyi that their children were living at home, they were in school. They had a lot of people, I have a lot of friends that were living in Ikoyi that time. Are you getting it? But now, when you go to Ikoyi, what you see is second generation, people don't even live in their house, they've sold their houses, Abi. That means the focus of, what's that local government for Ikoyi? Etiosa will not be the same. If you have a local government that has a growing population, the focus will be on things like education, Abi. Maybe, what do you call that thing they put children when they're small? Daycare. You can't be saying the same thing for a local government that has an aging population. Now, the local government that has growing population, their hospital will be filled with drugs for mother and child. But the local government that has a growing population, the hospital will be filled with drugs for rheumatism, hypertension, arthritis, all those things for old people, Abi. So, you can see that it will be different. Now, imagine if we are making policies from one local government, spread across all the local governments without taking consideration for the specific and the peculiarities for each local government. What are we going to have? Chaos, Abi? Because we have determined that fiscal policy is about based on each levels of government. You can see the relationship we are supposed to have with our federal government, Abi. So if local government through Lewe does its own policy, decides how it's going to get money. For example, people may not be able to pay taxes in Ikoyi in 1980. Maybe that time their children were in secondary school and university, Abi. Now that all their children are grown up and they are home alone, their ability to pay tax will be higher, Abi. So if they are charged more, they will pay. And what they will consider as noise is not what we are going to consider as noise. If you are in a neighborhood that is growing, there's always a malam selling something, Abi. But if you are in a neighborhood that is grown, malam is selling something is security risk because they're always afraid of external person coming in, Abi, because they are old. They don't want any kind of. But when you are younger, malam selling something around your area is a plus. You can wash your car. It's a plus for you. You can see that there are differences. Now, what are the tools we use to establish and the fiscal policy is only set by CBN because that's why we don't have two bodies setting monetary policy in Nigeria. We have only one body, which is the CBN. And what do we use to achieve this? To achieve fiscal policy, we use the taxes and how government spends money to achieve it, while in monetary policy, we use things like interest rate, reserve requirements. If government, for example, anybody working in a bank here that is willing to talk to us? Anybody? What's the interest rate? Okay, what's the interest rate? 14%. 14%. That's which interest?
MPR last month.
I didn't ask for MPR now.
MPR is pension.
No, I first wanted to ask. No, first, that's why you have scattered the thing now. What the bank, anybody working in the bank, tell us the interest rate they charge. If you are, do you understand? What's the interest rate? Any bank, for example, if you are working in GTB, First Bank, if I come to apply for a loan, how much is your interest rate? 22? 30, which is your place 13%? No, if it is 30%, let me know. Once people not to have money, because for you to go and borrow money, you know you are going to pay 22%, Abi, because the benchmark is 14%, and the bank will now set on it some of their own interest rates so that they can make profit. Do you understand? So if government reduces it, let's say to 5%, what happens? The bank rate will drop, Abi, probably to 10%, making credit easy. And when credit is easy, everybody will borrow. Do you understand? 2 years, 3 years ago, people were doing consumer loan. I don't know. Have you people seen all those people do consumer loan last year? Yeah. No. I'm talking of this household. You want to buy car. Have you seen? Do you guys go out to do that again? Do you see them coming to the office to do that again? When Nigeria was in boom, Abi, we reduced the interest rate, and money was so there was a lot of people were buying cars, were using loan to do everything, and you see adverts, Samsung, people were buying phone, Abi, MTN and Diamond Bank buy phone. That those kind of phone will pay you when they steal them, and you're still paying the debt. Yeah. So we use that to manipulate the rate of currency, money flow in an economy. Now, what is macroeconomy and what is microeconomy? Now, ladies and gentlemen, when you are doing economy, we identify that there are different levels in economy. Me, as a person, as an individual, whenever we come together as a group, another level. If we have a firm, another level. When you bring firms together, becomes an industry, another level. You can study them at different levels individually. As we are seated here, so is our diverse needs, Abi. We all have what is our opportunity cost, and they are all different. Are you getting it? To everybody here, 1,000 has different value. Are you getting it? To some people here, 1,000 is money for data. If you give them that 1,000 like this, they'll buy data. To some people, if you give them 1,000, it's to buy water. You can see that it's different. Now, studying individual issues when it relates to how we take decisions, that one is what is called the micro MI. However, when we now need to aggregate all our economic decisions into one, do you understand? And how it affects us, any economic decision affects all of us, that is now the one they call macro. Are you getting it? So what we are studying in this class, majorly, we are not concerned about the micro. We are concerned about the macro. So most of what I'm talking concerning collective decision, economic decisions that affect the economy. Because really, every individual's decision, your decision to come to Synergy and take ICANN has an impact on ICANN lecture industry in Lagos, doesn't it? You have added value to Synergy, and adding value to Synergy, you have added a profit margin to Synergy that when they bring all the schools in Lagos together, they will also pay tax, abi? Meaning that you added something. But that is not what we are studying in this class. We are studying how the entire industry of lecturing has an impact on the economy. Are you getting this? The entire group. So another thing that we are going to be talking about more here, which we started talking from the first class, it is GDP, gross domestic product. So that we don't forget, I made sure I got a graphical illustration of what GDP is. GDP, gross domestic product, is a function of consumption, what you consume, what government spends, investment in the economy, and the net of export and import. Why is this important? Why is GDP important? GDP is the major basis of evaluating performance of the economy. People have argued that it is not the best, it's not sufficient, it is not this, because the calculation is not standardized. But as we have it today, it is the only basis we have to measure the performance of the economy. So in this class, we'll be talking a lot concerning GDP, because at the end of the day, whatever we do in fiscal policy, the objective is to increase the GDP. If you are in private sector, what is the objective of a private sector company? Sorry? Maximization of profit. Not just adding, you must maximize the profit. So what we're trying to do is that every decision we take in public sector also, in quote, maximize the GDP contribution so that GDP grows. And now, for example, now we're in Nigeria. Since last year, we've been talking about recession. Abi? Recession. And we explained that it's because some people have monitored our GDP and seen that our GDP is on a decline. And we explained again that recession is basically termed recession if your GDP goes down consecutively for not more than 2 quarters. 2 quarters. Please, those are the kind of things that you have in your... However, if it progress for more than 2 quarters going down, what do we term that you are going through? You are going through a depression. And I also further explain to you, because also, why did I say that? I went to give a lecture and somebody asked me that GDP means that we must go back to positive. I said, no. Once there is a growth in your economy, even though you are still on the minus, we will determine that you have a growth. Once there's a positive growth, you are out of a recession. So I pray we're out of this one that we're going. We're almost getting to 4 quarters now, and there's no look as if we are going to go out of it, We'll go out. By grace of God. Reserve. This guy is not optimistic at all. Every time, he's not optimistic at all. Don't worry, we'll get out of it. We'll get out of it. But like I've always maintained, we need to be, this is not prayer. We need to be strategic. We need to plan for it. If we don't plan for it, it won't happen. We'll just be enjoying our recession. And it's biting hard, It's biting very hard. I mean, if you're in practice, you see clients closing down, not missing it becomes graphical and very saddening. You have clients that maybe had 10 staff before, reduce them to 4 or 5. Then later, is now the secretary and the receptionist. He has sent everybody home, and he's even telling you that once this rent expires, you work from home because now he has internet. Some people say they have made us more realistic, is it? Sometimes when you are broke, you are not doing your own behavior. You know what they say in Yoruba land? You are not behaving you only. It's when you have money that will know your behavior. So I make more money, so that once you make more money, you can augment. That's why I'm here. I'm lecturing, making more money. So any questions so far? Excellent. So we're in a good. So somebody asked me this question in the first class. What's the difference between the payments? So balance of trade. Let me explain. When we're doing GDP, we said that part of the, even before I even go to balance of payment, there was, I think we have traced it in the class already. When we said that, I think it was the gentleman that brought it up concerning that we need to increase government spending, and we tried to illustrate how government spending increase may not necessarily, and I think I need to go over it again, because some of these things will come as a question. Are you getting it? And for you to explain and make a case is just having a good understanding of some of these things that will be able to give you a way to explain it. Now, we said that GDP is consumption plus what? Plus export. Abi? Now, assuming that we have calculated GDP and GDP is 1,000. And okay, let's put figures so that you can, I don't write this one first, okay. Let's first use, let's put figure. Let's say consumption is 100, government spending is 600, investment is what? Export. In reality, you know we have low export, Abi. Let's assume our export, just like you said, let's say 20. But our import, okay, let's say it's 300. Let's say it's 300. Okay, let's solve this. We first solve the Bodman, Abi. We first solve the bracket. What's the one? Minus 270, Abi. 280. That's a plus. This one goes to turn. Okay. What is this one? 100, 600, 200, Abi. 900. So that's 900 minus 280. What's that? 620. Now, assuming we now argue that we want to increase the GDP, and our focus is maybe probably want to increase it to 900. Are you getting it? And the argument is that if we increase government spending, by default, GDP will increase. Do you understand? That's the normal argument. I don't know if you have heard of arguments. Constantly people are throwing it that's the argument. Government should just spend. Government should just spend. But the thing is that you have to also understand the way the way we are in Nigeria. One of them is our consumption pattern. Do you understand? We Nigerians don't usually save. Do you agree? We are not a saving population. We don't save. We don't usually save. That is the characteristics of Nigerians. Therefore, if money enters into the economy, people don't save. For what they do is to start buying. We buy, we don't, in fact, we do spontaneous buying. Do you understand? So, number one, put that back in your mind as part of the argument, Abi. You have first made that background that Nigerians based on characteristics, because when you are reviewing a number, you must also review what is behind the number, Abi. So, meaning that it will not, if we just increase this to, say, 900, you'll be shocked also. You know, there's all those other theories about the proportion that the consumption will increase. Do you understand? But in Nigeria, sometimes almost 90 or 100%, because we are not a saving population. Abi? Now, that means the consumption will also increase. So let's assume consumption increases by 100%. Abi? 200. Now, investment is another factor. How will investment increase? Because we are not, and because we don't save, there's no money to invest. Therefore, it's likely that investment will stay the same. Assumption, Abi? Now, Nigeria, when we have money, we import. Everything will come in. People will import everything. So, meaning that because we don't invest, Abi, it's possible that exports may still remain the same. And our, what they call it, import may even 100% again. So this one is 20, this is 600. Let's solve it again. This is 580 minus, what do we have here? 21113, Abi? 1300 minus 580. 720. Now, with the proportion of government investment, as the GDP grows in that proportion. However, if we make policies that drives up investment, do you understand? If those policies that drive up investment can also increase exports, let's assume we've increased investment on people that are coming in to set up a farm, and we give them all the support that they can get. I was in Calabar and I was told that Calabar they have better rice than even the north. They have rice mill in Calabar, but people are not interested. So imagine if, are you getting what I'm saying? Now, assuming we have investment that brings in that kind of farmland, and based on that, they can export in the next 1 year. Won't these two increase? Now, this will increase, and this will also help this. Why? This is because we have to also understand something. Nigerians, we are not tax-paying people. This increase of 300, it will be a debt in Nigeria. Are you getting it? It will be a debt. That means it's not just going to be 300. There will be a lot of effect of this 300 that's going to be high because we will borrow. I mean, for every time we are talking of increase in our GDP expenditure, what do we talk about? We talk of borrowing. You can see these are fundamental issues. So at the end of the day, by the time you finish all this analysis, we are just doing a summary of it. By the time you go through everything in detail, you find out that just throwing money, government just spending money. Because again, let's talk of corruption. If government borrows 300 to want to spend on the economy, how much do you think gets into the economy? So, like we said, assuming we even said, by the time we even look at corruption indices in this 300 again, the money will not be enough. So, now, balance of trade. Balance are essentially saying that if you bring in, if you import 10, and you export 10 to other countries, abi, you have a balanced trading. But balance is really measured based on individual country, abi. That we and China, for example, Nigerians are exporting a lot. We're importing a lot from China. What are we exporting to China? Nothing. What? Sand. And CC. Because I CC, what they call them, they are packing our sand. I don't know how far it is true. I only heard two. No, yeah. When you guys are talking economy, talking governance, people will give you a lot of information. That, can you imagine this is what it is? But if it's true, because they said they don't have sand in their own. So any of those our rock, they blast here, they ship it. If it's true, I don't know. But that's mining. Abi? That's mining. They are mining, they are taking our resources away. So, and in balance of trade is basically concerning your earnings on export, the net earnings on export and net payments for import. When you bring the two together, the difference will give if it's equal, then your trading is balanced. Whereas balance of now, we'll be talking more concerning balance of trade in this class. Because why? Part of the major component of GDP is these components, export and import. So we'll be talking about it. We will not be so much concerned about the balance of payments, which is essentially the flow of money between one country and the other. So in this class, we'll be looking at our consumption, government spending, how we can raise investment, how we can ensure that trade is also balanced. Any question? Now, let's go to the scope of public finance. The things we are going to be, when you trade, you pay, Abi? It's essentially how money flows between one country and the other. If the money flowing between us is the same, you can say that we have a balance of payment. Do you understand? Essentially, payment is one, trade is the net earnings. Do you understand? But for you to pay off, you need to give money, Abi? Excellent. So, what are the things we'll be discussing about in this class? Public finance is actually, we are broken down to these topics. What I've done all to this point is to kind of introduce you to public finance and all the things, the issues around it, Abi? Now, to discuss and explain it further, we're going to be taking public finance based on these topics that we are divided it. So, it's going to be for the next 1 month, we'll be discussing issues related to public finance in different classes as we go on. The issue concerning public revenue, the public expenditure, what are the issues concerning public surplus? Now, ladies and gentlemen, syllabus does not talk about us talking of surplus. Syllabus mention us talking more of public debt. Let me explain what it is. Public finance is basically how we get revenue, public revenue, and how we have public expenditure. Because when you have revenue, you spend out of it, Now, if you have excess, if your public revenue is greater than your public expenditure, what you have is surplus, But if your public revenue is lower than your public, you have deficit. Now, the syllabus focused on this. There was no focus on this. Probably because we have never had surplus in Nigeria. So the syllabus does not even expect us to plan for surplus. But I believe that in our time, we will get surplus. So I'm going to teach you issues around surplus and what we do when we have surplus. Because you may be minister, you may be commissioner, you know what to do. But we are going to deal more concerning issues concerning the deficit. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you can see that we mentioned public debt. Deficit is not the same as debt. Let's use somebody as an example. If your salary is 100,000 naira and your expenses in a month is 120,000 naira, DSTV, is it that guy that is a guy or something? No, there's a guy that you have 20,000 naira deficit. Now when you have deficit, there are options. Number one option, reduce these expenses, You have that option. You have set out and say, okay, part of the thing that is here is I usually go to watch ball outside the house every Saturday, every Sunday evening with my friends, and because of that I eat Nkwobi. And Nkwobi every Sunday comes to 5,000, Cut it off. So by the time you cut all those ones off, you are come to 100,000. You can see you are not borrowing. So deficit does not really translate to debt. Are you getting it? It is also possible that by the time you have a deficit of 20, by the time you want to reduce your expenses, you find out that you can't reduce even more than 120. Below that one, you can't even function. You don't have another option. Increase your revenue, Abi. Start doing lesson teacher, Abi. For the people in your neighborhood, start teaching lesson. When you come home early, you gather the children and they clap and their mothers will pay you 1,000. That is one. Or you start practicing you start practicing your accounting profession, small by small. Be getting loose money. That is another option. What other option are there? No transfer in the office. Log in. Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of internet money now being made these days. So those ones will not add. So you have also the option of increasing your revenue, reducing your revenue. When everything is such that you can't change any of the above, Abi, you are now with deficit. You may have deficit of 20,000 and decide, because I want to reduce, I don't want to have too much of debt on my head, only borrow 10,000. So debt is that part of deficit that is borrowed. Do you understand? Why did I take pain to explain this? I can usually manipulate the question. Sometimes they will use the word deficit, and students will take the word deficit and start talking of debt. Are you getting it? There are two different things. Budget deficit is not the same as public debt. So sometimes I can say the issue concerning budget deficit, how can we solve it? And students will start talking of how do we pay back debt. So we'll be talking about it in a lot, and we're talking about the issue concerning revenue allocation, which is one of the fundamental issues why we are fighting ourselves in this country. How do we share? Because we have revenue that we all collect jointly. Do you understand? And the issue is that how do we share it so that everybody that is due will get what they are due for. And we're talking concerning the issues that are basically the financial management matter. How do we plan, budgeting, expenditure, and performance assessment in public sector? Any question? So let's talk of public revenue. Now, we said that public finance is basically two sides, Abi, the revenue and the expenditure. So let's start for discussing the revenue. Now, it is easy. It should be easy. It should be easy when they say we should define what public revenue is. However, because there's been too much of theories around it, defining it has evolved and has two different perspectives. Let me use this again as an example. If you earn salary of 100,000 and you have somebody that normally buy you lunch in a month, maybe 4 times in a month, that is maybe 4,000 naira. Somebody usually gives you lift from house to office and back every day. That one is luxury. Potential suitor. No, you may be living in the same neighborhood and the person, driving alone in Lagos is very boring and very risky. So if somebody is living around me, I don't mind, share the car, let's go and come back home. What else can you say free thing can come from? Which subscription? Data. Okay. Maybe somebody give you subscription data of 3,000 monthly. Excellent. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is your salary. If you are asked, what is your income in a month? What will be your first reaction? 100,000. Abi? That is your. But is that your only income? Do you understand? I'm only using this as an example, not that. Wait, let me first see, because I also anticipated that kind of. But in actual sense, in a month, your income is 100,000 and all the other savings that you're able to make, Abi? You did not, because if you had relied on this 100,000, you would have by yourself ate lunch, Abi, which would have reduced your money. By yourself paid for your transport, which would have reduced your money. By yourself subscribe. Now, so your income in that month, 333 plus 4, 37 plus 100,000 is actually 137,000. Just like that in public sector. Public revenue can be defined only from the income government makes from the basic things government is supposed to charge on, which is the taxation, or can also be defined from all the other sources. For example, debt, and if there are interventions by other countries into your country. Nigeria, Red Cross gives us money. Other countries also do intervention in UNDP, do intervention in Nigeria, all those things. So, meaning that if you want to look at the total amount of money we have spent, for example, on health sector, public revenue, you are defining public revenue in case, but it's not a usual thing you get in a skills level for them to say, define. You can explain it, and in explanation, say to them the issue, because like I said, the debate has been there. The narrow perspective and the wider perspective of the public revenue. Now, this one is revenue. Some has even said that whenever you had all these other ones that is beyond your control, you can call it these two public receipts. But when this one that is coming basically from your taxes, you call it only the public revenue. And that also forms the basis of some distinction between public receipts and public revenue. However, it is not cast in any stone. So don't say that this is how it is said. Depending on what you are explaining is how these things should be used. So, ladies and gentlemen, what are the components of public revenue? There are the tax revenue. It's not clear. Is it clear? Okay. There are the tax revenue and not tax revenue. Now, in tax revenue, we have the ones that are direct taxes and indirect taxes. Which ones are the ones that are direct taxes? Are the ones that what is the basis of saying something is direct tax? I didn't need to define it because this one is in your. I remember I've done tax, commercial law. There's taxes in commercial law now. Now there's something called incidence. Incidence of tax. I'm sure you have heard that word before. Whenever you are the final person having the effect of the incidence of tax, it is direct taxes. For example, in your salary, when they remove your pay as you earn, that is direct. A company pays corporate tax, that is direct. If you sell your assets that you have been claiming capital allowance on, when you are paying the capital gain taxes, it is direct. You can't pass it on to the next person. However, the indirect taxes can be passed on. One of these those ones is, for example, VAT. VAT is the most popular one because VAT can be passed on as value is being added. Custom and duty exercise. People that goes to bring things from China, they will tell you that it is the cost they bought it plus the cost of bringing it in. They will now. That's why they now get the cost price before they now charge you for the cost price. That is also pushing it forward to you. Entertainment taxes. It is not direct. It is indirect. Education tax. You can be pushed forward. Now there are there are non-tax revenue that government also earn, and they are basically of three forms. There are the ones that are administrative revenue, and the revenue from public corporation and signage. I mean, we have heard of signage before. Signage. I think that's pronunciation now. Currency. The currency we are holding was printed, 1,000 naira is not really 1,000 naira in print form, Maybe the cost of printing 1,000 naira maybe is 10 naira or something. Just argument's sake. Now you know that every note in your possession is not your property. It's the property of CBN. Do you understand? We're only using it as a means of exchange. CBN rents this cash in thousands. Okay. What was that? Okay, signage. CBN normally charges the banks for holding this money too, and the bank also transfers it on. Are you aware of that? That is part of when they charge you COT, cost of turnover, part of it. It is for them the kind of cash you have handled. So government makes money from that. But government makes money from the administrative things. For example, when they charge fees, fine. For example, when we gave the GSM license, it's an administrative money that government made money from. If you have to pay penalties, government, for example, if last man catches you, is money, If FRCM, road safety, catches you, you pay money. That also goes to government. But government also makes money from public corporation. For example, NNPC, we are supposed to make money from the profits they make because there supposed to be a company that will trade and pay its profits to government. Any question? So basically, these are the key issues concerning the form of way government makes money. The key first one is the issue concerning tax. So going forward in this class, we'll discuss issues around tax. Any question at this point? No question. No question. So, by His grace, I will see you guys on Saturday. Enjoy your week.